right. So for anybody who doesn't know me, I'm Abby Pearsall. I'm the conservation officer for the town of Hingham. So welcome and thank you for coming to our rain garden installation today. So just to give a real big context, this project is one small piece of an entire effort to essentially protect Walton's Cove from the onslaught of sediment and pollutants that are reaching it from the storm drain systems and also from water that's coming off of people's private property and ultimately getting into the roadway, flowing overland, and getting into the cove. So the whole point of today is to really protect this water body and the surrounding harbor. So we're here for kind of a bigger purpose. This is phase 2 in a grant project that the town of Hingham has been working on for a while with Kitty's help and sort of prodding to get things done and move this cause forward. So we're very grateful for her and to Robbie for volunteering their property for this event. The Department of Coastal Zone Management has actually awarded a grant for this piece. So this is a phase 2 of this grant project. That also involves some public infrastructure improvements on Downer Avenue that will come in sort of later phases. But this is really the opportunity for folks to take a look and see what they can do on their own properties to help this overall cause. Just because we're here in Walton's Cove does not mean that it has to, these types of things have to stay here. So everybody around town has an opportunity to help protect the water bodies near them with things like these rain gardens. So I'm not going to talk a whole lot more other than just to say thank you again, and I will turn it over to Michelle, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Abby. My name is Michelle West. I'm a water resources engineer at the Horsley Witten Group, and we've been working with Abby and the town on the Walton's Cove project for over a year now. It's been very exciting, and we've gotten to do a lot of field work and learn a lot about this area. But today, I must say, is one of my favorite things to do is build rain gardens. I'm a little bit of a stormwater geek, I must say, but I get very excited about getting my hands dirty and helping to protect water quality wherever it is. So hopefully today you will learn a little bit more about how you can build one of these at your very own home. They're pretty basic. A rain garden is just a landscape depression. It has a flat bottom and only a ponding depth of 6 inches or so. This won't hold a lot of water. It won't be deep. You don't have to worry about safety concerns if you have kids at home. And they're not wet features. That's a common misconception, that a rain garden is basically a pond or a wetland. These are meant to stay dry. They should drain less than 24 hours after a rain event. So you don't have to worry about mosquitoes. They take more than 72 hours, I think, to actually hatch. So the mosquitoes should not be a problem. A lot of people worry about having rain gardens for that reason. So today we're going to finish up a rain garden that actually was started by Matt Bilbo, and he can talk a little bit more about what he's done so far, and then we'll discuss kind of the agenda for the rest of the day.
Sure, thanks. So I'm here to try to make things a little prettier and bring my sort of visual eye to the table and help with picking plants and placing them in the right sort of places. And we kind of worked with the land to sort of create a spot that was both attractive and served the function that Horsley Witten sort of came up with as far as figuring out where we could get the best benefit of drain water from the gutters of the house and from the driveway. And so that's it. I'm just here to try to make things pretty. And,
luckily, he did all the back-breaking work ahead of time.
Yeah, we dug out all the
excavation
and placed the stones that came out of the hole. So that's all native stuff, and we were able to recycle it. And hopefully it will be pretty in the future.
So what we're going to do today, right now, there is some loose topsoil that's in the bottom of the rain garden, and we've brought in compost provided by DPW. I think that's something that can be picked up, DPW, if you want some for your own rain garden. And we're going to mix that compost in with this topsoil that was already here to provide that organic matter for the plants that we're going to put in. So once we mix in that soil, make sure it is nice and loose in the bottom, then we're going to check to make sure that the bottom of the rain garden is level. And this is a really important part. We want the rain garden to fill up kind of like a bathtub all at once. You don't want it to only have a low spot in one area and water never reach the other end, or basically just short circuit the rain garden altogether and just flow over the berm. So we're going to check to make sure it's level, and we'll show you, it's pretty easy. There's an easy way that you could do this at your home, so we'll show you kind of how to do that. And then we're going to get to the fun, exciting part, which is actually putting the plants in. Everybody, it's very rewarding to see the plants go in. So with Matt's guidance on how to dig the hole properly and all of that, we'll get the plants in, and then we'll put a little bit of mulch on top. So in the end, we should have a rain garden that can hold about 6 inches of water across its surface area before it will overflow into the cove. And so if anyone has any questions throughout the day, oh, there's a question.
What is the substrate now? I mean, it's specific to this property, but after what you dug, what's on it?
That's a very good question. What is the substrate below the excavation that you see here? And it's kind of a sandy,
So we got some sandy fill, which is the natural native fill, which is here. It's very sandy. The water percolates right through it. And then on top of that, we had pulled off and saved the topsoil. We scalped the grass off, discarded that, and then saved the first, I don't know, say 6 inches of loomy good stuff. And now we put it back in the hole, and now we just piled a little compost on top, and the next step is going to be to incorporate the two together.
And a lot of rocks.
Yeah, which you guys will find out shortly.
But that's a good point. If you find that the soil at your house is more clay or really fine material that you think might not drain that well, you'll want to amend the soils with some sand. So you may want to excavate or dig out a little bit more of the existing soil so you can put sand back in with compost, because again, we don't want this to be a ponded, wet area all the time.
So how far down are you amending the 2,000?
Probably only about 3 inches or so. You don't need too much. Yeah.
But
so
you're digging deeper though, because we're adding on top of that 3 inches.
Right.
So if you need sand, about 3 inches of sand over the surface area. If you need, we have compost. We estimated about 3 inches of that compost, and the mulch could be about 1 to 3 inches of mulch. So take that into account when you are deciding how deep your hole needs to be for the rain garden.
How big do you make them?
How big do you make them? Good question. There is a calculation that you can do. Not everybody likes equations. It's not that complicated. There's also a shortcut method. We have put together a little guide. It's called the Rain Garden Guide for Homeowners that can help you size your rain garden. But basically, what you're looking at is the drainage area to your rain garden. In this case, we're taking rooftop runoff. We have pipes connecting from the downspouts from the house that it's run towards the rain garden, and it will also take runoff from the road itself. So using those as kind of the drainage area to the rain garden, what you size it for is a 1-inch rainfall over that impervious cover in your rain garden. So it's really just those, and how deep the rain garden is. So we make it 6 inches. So if you think of 1 inch falling on those surfaces and 6 inches deep in the rain garden, and there's kind of a simple calculation you can do for that. Also, it's a good time to mention that there is a rain garden app for those smartphone users. This is actually, I just downloaded it on my phone, and it's really pretty cool. A group in Connecticut, Connecticut NEMO, Non-Point Education for Municipal Operators. Officials. You can never remember that one. Created this really neat rain garden app that will take you through from start to finish on how to do a rain garden at your house. So if you are a smartphone user, you might want to do that. If you are a hard copy, you like to hold the paper, you can pick up a flyer that the town has. Other questions? I'm sure there'll be more as we go too, and we can talk about all the different aspects as we're getting our hands dirty.
What are some of the plants that you've got?
So we got some native species here. There's some northern sea oats, which is kind of a grass. That has a really pretty seed pod, and there's some blue flag iris. They get taller after they flower, they should be flowering soon. And then some Joe Pye weed. That's a native kind of meadow plant. I added elderberry there just for a little drama and excitement, and Joe Pye weed, rudbeckia, which is the black-eyed Susan, and echinacea, and let's see, what else do we have? I think that's it. I think we just did 5, right? Plus my little, oh, and there's some clethra, which is also a native wetlands plant, which has really pretty white flower and a great smelling fragrance. It is just out of control. It smells like a mock orange or something. It's really spicy and sweet. And it blooms in like August, which is like great because it's like when nothing else is blooming. So that's it.
All right, so we're going to grab some shovels and we're going to get in there and start mixing up that soil. Trying to get down to the topsoil that was placed in the garden first and mix the compost in. And you get the bubble just right in the middle and you attach the other end of the string. And then we'll have it in the middle like this. And you can measure down from different points along the string to see it should be the same distance from the string down to the bottom if it's level. So that's a nice, quick, easy way that anybody can check if the bottom of their rain garden is level. And the bubble will be right in the middle if it's completely level.
Yeah, but
So you adjust the string.
it would throw it off. All right.
You adjust either end until it is level. You have it as tight as possible so it's not like saggy.
Right.
Again, the rain garden's not supposed to be a wet pond, so you don't want to choose plants that are solely a wetland type plant. These plants have to be able to withstand both dry and wet conditions.
All I'm doing is
And there is a whole list of plants that are tolerant to those conditions that you can find on the website that I mentioned earlier, or talk to a landscaper about that. But yeah, you don't want it will die if it requires to be wet all the time. The rain garden definitely will be dry most of the time.
So when I'm putting these plants in, the thing I really prefer to do is to put all the tall stuff in first, and consider all the shorter things you probably want towards the front so that you can see them. So in this case, the rudbeckia, the black-eyed Susan, is our shortest specimen. So we'd like to pull all those forward. The echinaceas are a little higher. They go to 36 to 40 something, and the let's see.
Joe Pye weed gets tall.
Yeah, so these are 24 on the black-eyed Susan, 24 inches, and 36 to 48 on the echinacea, and Joe Pye gets to be 48 plus. Well, so each plant, we're going to have to look at their root balls and sort of see what's going on with them. If they have a really tight root ball, like this one is a young plant, so there isn't much. If these pots are root bound, you want to break them up a little bit before you put them in, but this one is totally perfect to just go right in the hole. So that's
Well,
it.
they're handy. I mean, look at
Right.
they've been put to use. It's really gorgeous.
So after I got the guy planted, the little baby plant in here, I like to leave a little bit of a ring around it so that when we water this with a hose just to get these things started, the water will pool around the plant and get directly. It's like a mini rain garden within the rain garden. So we're basically making just a little bit of an earthen dam to hold a little bit of water directly around the plant.
And that brings up a good question. How much should you expect to water your rain garden? You definitely need to water the plants until they get established, and then after that you shouldn't need to water it. The rainwater that's feeding the garden should be enough to keep them alive, unless it's an extended drought period. I mean, if they look really dry and give them some water, but the idea of the rain garden is it's almost self-watering. You obviously don't want to be on the top of a hill and put your rain garden. It might be a great location with no trees or pipes or anything, but you're not going to get any water from it. So you want to see where the water is flowing already. Try to look for as flat a spot as you can. Try to avoid any underground pipes or trees or that sort of thing. And then you can lay out the footprint that you want to see. And make sure before you start a project, before you start digging, that you contact the town to see if a permit is needed. This rain garden, for example, needed to be approved by the Conservation Commission. a very easy process, but it is close to the coastal bank here, so it did need to go through that process. And you also want to call DigSafe to make sure you understand where underground pipes are, like gas lines or that sort of thing. We did have a gas line that we needed to avoid on this property, so those are two really important things that you do before you start your digging. Now, not only was it good to use the rocks because they were dug up from the hole, it's a good idea to, if you extend a pipe to bring concentrated flow of water to your rain garden like this, to have rock around that location so it doesn't erode out the soil of the garden. So it's good to use the rock that he dug up, but also to protect the garden from erosion. If there is any areas where erosion is happening after rainstorms, maybe the slope is slumping in one area, and you'll want to stabilize those eroded areas with either plants or rock. So that's one of the things that you'll need to look for over time while you're watching your rain garden grow. Other maintenance things that you might need to do are basic landscaping activities. You might need to prune or cut back some of the plants as they grow over the years. They're going to get really big in here. You might need to replace dead plants.
will need a little shaping.
Shaping.
And all the perennial stuff, it's nice to sort of just leave things through the fall and just let them be dead stalks and let them be something that's sort of pretty and natural, and then in the spring cut everything down. Some people like things to be really tidy, and if you like it that way, we can just trim it all down in the fall and have it just be dirt, and it will just disappear, and then be a garden again in the spring. But my personal taste is I like to just leave things and let the seed pods that are in here have a chance to kind of seed more and move around. I like the plants to kind of naturalize. So
probably the biggest maintenance item that you'll have to look out for are weeds. Not only can weeds seed get into your nice mulch and compost that you have in your new rain garden, but there may be some weed seed in your mulch that you got. It may have traveled to your rain garden right with that material. So you'll want to kind of keep note of what you planted, what you want in your rain garden, and then the weeds that are growing that you don't want, and kind of stay on top of that, because some weeds are very invasive and can take over your rain garden before you even blink an eye. So that probably will be the most labor intensive. So we're watching the water flow, and it's kind of coming around on itself, and that's why Matt's trying to move some of the material on that edge to get it to go in that direction.
Right.
So, I mean, it's going to settle, the mulch and the compost will settle over time and kind of even out. But you'll want to watch that to see where the water is actually going, if it's making its way up down the full length of your garden. And probably the only other maintenance item to really think about is over time, if you see your garden ponding water longer than a day after a rain event, that's not what it's supposed to do. So you might have to do some amendments, maybe add some sand, maybe make it a little bit wider to spread that water out. You don't want to be creating a wetland environment with your rain garden.
So I live here. I've lived here since 1969. And when my family and I moved here, we could swim off of our yard at low tide. Now we can barely have enough water to launch a kayak. So a couple of years after we moved in here, the highway department installed some culverts that would empty this watershed's storm drain, stormwater into the cove. And this is a huge watershed. It's 95 acres. And I tried to stop it. I did not lie down in front of the jackhammers or the bulldozers, but I tried hard, and I appealed to lots of town departments, but it would have been really expensive to move it further out, and I didn't have any leverage. I knew only that it was going to turn the cove into a retention basin for silt and sediment. I was not aware of the implications on the ecosystem. That took a long time. I'm a slow learner, I think. So it's filled in with about 6 feet of sediment. My neighbor and I went out in 2009 with bulb planters and took sediment samples and took them to the lab that the town uses for the water at the bathing beach. And lo and behold, what we have in here is cadmium, lead, mercury, zinc, copper, arsenic, all manner of noxious chemicals. Not enough to damage human beings, but certainly enough that it has damaged the ecosystem. We used to have clouds of egrets that came in here, and great blue herons, and yellow legs, greater and lesser yellow legs. There used to be helmet crabs that came in here to spawn. There used to be lots of little green crabs. My kids would go out with crabbing nets, and I could keep them occupied for hours. Those are all gone. We rarely get an egret or a heron in here. So I've made attempts at varying intervals to get help for this, and one day I made a cold call to the State Department of Coastal Zone Management, left a voicemail, and Jason Bertner, who is the regional director of Coastal Zone Management, actually called me back, came over, looked at what was happening to the cove. We talked a lot over cups of coffee over several meetings. He identified a possible grant. Ken Corson was the lead for the town because it was a town grant. We got a grant, and conservation was given the administrative, whatever you call it, power, and they hired Horsley Witten Consulting Company of engineers and water resource people and landscape designers and all the rest of it to do a feasibility study and a 30% design plan. That was the first stage. That's being done. And so some work has been done in upgrading the storm drain system on Downer Avenue. More will be done next year when it's repaved. And a very small part of the grant was to have an educational program and to create a rain garden. And so since I was the bulldog on this, the rain garden came to my yard. So you see what's here now, and it's gorgeous.
So how did the concept of a rain garden come about? It's a very good question. I think that the kind of traditional way to deal with rainwater as we've developed our landscape was to try to get the water away from our house and our road as fast as possible. And as a result, over decades of that happening, we've seen a lot of water quality declines in all of our rivers and bays and embayments. So people started to look at it and think we should be trying to mimic the natural process. What did the land, where did the rain go before we developed the area? And it was soaked into the ground and it was taken up by plants. We had very little surface runoff. So that's what the rain garden and other practices like it are trying to do. They're trying to mimic that natural condition to get the water to soak back in and have the plants take it up, and you have less impact to your receiving water. So we tend not to suggest people to put edible plants. I know we have the elderberry here, and I think that's probably fine if you're taking roof runoff. But if you were taking a lot of road or driveway runoff where you get metals and oils from your cars, you probably don't want to put too much edible
Material,
plants.
yeah.
You don't want to make your garden in the rain garden and eat from it.
And this whole yard is organic, so it's that in this case that worked.
Exactly. And roof runoff is mainly pretty clean anyhow, so I wouldn't worry about it so much. But I just wanted to point that out because people have tried that. And I don't know how much research has actually been done on how much, say, a tomato plant might take up in terms of pollutants, but we just try to avoid that problem. In Massachusetts, statistics have shown that 90% of all rain events that you get are 1 inch or less. So the idea is if you can size your rain garden for that 1 inch, now you're capturing the runoff from 90% of all storms in a year. You're not going to catch all, get a really big storm where it rains for longer than a day, you're probably going to see some overflow from this rain garden, maybe. But the idea is that that first 1 inch of rain, if it's on a roadway, that's picking up the pollutants off the roadway, and after that 1 inch, if it kept raining, the water would be cleaner. So if we really focus on trying to infiltrate and manage the 1 inch storm, will go a long way towards improving water quality.